Hi there. Welcome to Quality Quotes, in which I read a quote from the work of the great Robert M. Pirsig and discuss how its wisdom can help us live a better life. Today I have two quotes from Chapter 1 of Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. I have seen these marshes 1,000 times, yet each time they're new. It's wrong to call them benign. You could just as well call them cruel and senseless. They are all of those things, but the reality of them overwhelms halfway conceptions. There, a huge flock of red-winged blackbirds ascends from nests in the cattails, startled by our sound. Anyone familiar with mythology or classic art is going to realize that nature can be represented in many ways. Two aspects of it are that it is benign and in the background and perhaps quite idyllic, and cruel and senseless is another. The second is an important way to make sense of it so we know how to handle it, so we survive. If we did not understand this aspect, we would be SOL, as they say. Right now, we see this aspect rapidly multiplying across the globe, and I think sequestered in the artificial comfort of technology, we have forgotten that Mother Nature will always be more powerful. George Carlin once said that environmentalists who are so worried about humans' impact on the planet need not worry, because the planet will just shake us off like a dog with so many fleas. But the point of this quote is that reality is a dynamic, changing, second-to-second experience, and at any time, just when we think things are calm, benign, a huge flock of unexpected awe and beauty can emerge, which is, of course, another way of understanding nature. So what should our relationship with this sort of dynamic reality be? Seeing as the world of perception can be combinatorially explosive, that it can, as Pirsig said, overwhelm us with reality. So what do you perceive in the moment? What stands out? Can you perceive, understand, and relish that raw emergence that may tell you something you didn't know? Are you ready to be surprised and delighted by blackbirds? There's a saying that you can't step into the same stream twice. Underlying all of nature, all of the universe, patterns dominate, at least to our perception, and that's what counts. Calmness, then the dynamic unexpected, and that is what creates. Isn't that what makes the world go round? The marshes are never the same because the marsh itself is a pattern. So are you. Think about it. The second quote. The Chautauquas were pushed aside by faster-paced radio, movies, and TV. And it seems to me the change was not entirely an improvement. Perhaps because of these changes, the stream of national consciousness moves faster now and is broader, but it seems to run less deep. The old channels cannot contain it, and in its search for new ones, there seems to be growing havoc and destruction along its banks. This passage, written in the late 60s, was a harbinger of things to come. Pirsig, a true visionary, was able to see this trend many years before it actually manifested in its entirety. Now our national consciousness moves as quickly as the coronavirus, and we respond just as reactively. We have a lot more knowledge, I guess you could say, but it is very superficial. And now that knowledge is so fragmented, and with the fragmentation comes havoc and destruction. You could call it the meaning crisis. So isn't it always better to have more knowledge than a depth of knowledge? What's better, quantity or quality? Well, we actually know the answer to that. But what is the advantage of knowing something deeply as opposed to knowing a little about a lot of things? The more fragmented human knowledge becomes, the more we lose the connection we have with the origins of that knowledge. A cave painting ends up as a brick in the middle of a blank room at the Whitney Art Museum. Somewhere along the way, we lose everything that led up to that brick and just see the brick. Maybe it's time to circle back around and see where we lost our connection to those mysterious mystical figures that connect us with the gods, with nature, and with each other, and have for millennia. The Chautauqua, the edifying traveling talk of the 19th century, is something that is actually being revived thanks to TED Talks and long-format interviews. Maybe you can thank Joe Rogan for recapturing our attention, to remind us that it may be time to slow down and really absorb stuff. How much more satisfying in comparison is it to have watched the whole interview than a few key sound bites? In the book, The Glass Bead Game by Hermann Hesse, it was decided that knowledge had become too fragmented, too trivial, too decadent. Something like orders of monks formed to delve deep into the vast and fertile well of human knowledge, to rekindle the highest levels of intellectual engagement in its underlying patterns. That knowledge is still out there, and now it's at your fingertips. But it's up to you to choose to go wide or go deep. Maybe it's time to go back to the depths at least sometimes. Maybe it's up to you to unsubscribe from the Clips channel. So I hope that made sense, and I will see you next week for more quality quotes.